Welcome to HLN. Thanks as always for your time. I'm Rochelle Carey. This is usually when we start the Jodi Arias murder trial, but the routine seems to have been, at least starting back to yesterday, that they kind of start in judges' chambers. There is no testimony going on right now. The prosecutor, Juan Martinez, is in the courtroom. The defense attorney is in chambers with the judge. So we don't exactly know what's going on right now. Let's bring in our legal expert to kind of ask why they haven't been starting on time lately. There seems to always be some sort of issue that has to be dealt with the judge. So let's bring in our attorney to talk about this, John Manuelian. John, let me get your name right. Sorry about that. Thanks as always for your time. We always have to kind of speculate what we think is going on. We don't exactly know, but it's been a really a tense few days. Let's remind people who is on the stand right now. The domestic violence expert, Alice LaViolette, is who's on the stand, going back and forth, really doing battle with the prosecutor. How would you characterize what these few days have been like with these two heavyweights?
You know, I have mixed feelings about this, and I'll tell you why. Because I think they're losing focus in the trial. These jurors are tired. I don't think they want to hear a million questions about Snow White and the Seven Doors. I think it's bordering on the ridiculous at this point. And everything, in my opinion, that Martinez is asking of LaViolette is argumentative. You could sum all this up on the argument. So if you want to ask me, how do I think the jurors are feeling? I think they're tired. They get Martinez's point, and it's time to close up this case. It's been dragging way, way too long. And I'm also very critical of the defense not objecting to the argumentative questions that Martinez is asking. So this trial's gone on way too long. I think it might be hurting Martinez. I think his return on investment is diminishing at this point. And we'll see what happens from here. All
right, John, while you were talking, you actually timed that just perfectly. The jury was being brought back into the courtroom. So let's go ahead and pause as we think testimony is about to begin for the day in the Jodi Arias murder trial. Let's go ahead and pause for a moment. All right, while they have a sidebar right here, let's bring in our attorney, John Manuelian, who helps us figure these things out. Okay, so John, right now, the jury is out of the courtroom, and now they have a sidebar. John, what's going on right now?
I think what they did was they took the jury out because there's an evidentiary issue right now that they're discussing, specifically what, if any, information did LaViolette have in assessing whether or not Jodi was telling the truth. If she did have information that at 14 years old that she did lie, it was in a police report, then she could be impeached on that matter because Martinez is implicating or bringing out from the testimony that she did have that information and she either ignored it or used her subjective belief to put that aside. So basically right now what they're doing is, number one, trying to figure out whether or not this lady did review the report, whether she had access to it. And they're talking about the discovery in the process, whether or not that information was afforded to defense counsel as well as the witness on the stand.
Wow. And this really all goes to, he's trying to say that her conclusions are only as good as whether or not Jodi was telling her the truth, right?
Right. And you know, Rochelle, what's interesting is there's always a first in the Jodi Arias trial. Typically, these types of things are done through motions before the trial starts. It's not very common where in the middle of the trial, there's the jury that's shunned away for an evidentiary hearing to determine what, if anything, the defense may or may not know. So, again, this is another first time that I've seen in my practice where in the middle of trial, the caboose is stopped just to get this out of the way.
In the middle of the trial, they tell the jury to go away so we can figure out something that we really should have figured out beforehand, right?
Exactly.
Okay, you know what? Actually, this is a good time for us to take a break. So we're going to do that, John. Sit tight, and we'll pick up this conversation on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. So what we have just heard, the jury has not heard. They are not actually in the courtroom right now, so the judge is going to have to decide whether or not that this is something that the jury will, in fact, hear. So while we pause that, let me bring in attorney John Manuelian to talk about this. So, John, let's decide what the relevance of this is. So, okay, her parents said that she lied when she was a kid. Alice LaViolette is saying, I don't necessarily know what the relevance of that was. I had to put that in some sort of context. Now the judge basically has to put that in some sort of context to decide, you know, is this something that the jury, in fact, needs to hear?
Yeah, there needs to be a balancing test applied here, Rochelle. The probative value, in my opinion, does not weigh the prejudicial effect. Rochelle, you know, if those jurors hear the father say that my daughter was a liar, it's over for Jodi. I mean, that's the last nail in the coffin. It's highly prejudicial. It'll be up on appeal just on that issue alone. That's why I don't think the judge is going to bring it in. Maybe perhaps they'll skirt around it and say that she didn't take everything into consideration. Possibly that other people have deemed her to be a liar and that LaViolette didn't take that into consideration. But bringing that video in is toxic, and I don't think the judge is going to do it, and I think she'll be right not to do it.
Oh, wow. And to LaViolette's point, a lot of teenagers lie. Doesn't necessarily mean you grow up to become a liar, although we do know that there were times that Jodi herself admitted to being a liar.
Yes, and Martinez doesn't need the video to drive, the points home across. Has already done it. I mean, this guy has shot a mosquito with a cannon several times. He doesn't need to go this route. He doesn't need to do it. And, you're laughing, but that's what it is. I mean, even the jurors are laughing at some points when she said, "Are you angry with me?" This is just ludicrous. It's turning into a circus. Let's get back focused into the law. Keep it short and simple, and that's what the jury wants. That's what they're begging for at this point.
Okay, John, and to your point, actually, one of the defense motions that they filed is saying that Martinez is being disruptive by yelling at witnesses. We'll actually pick up on that point a little later this afternoon. John, thank you so much. Keep it here. We've hit the pause button. You're not missing a moment of testimony in the Jodi Arias murder trial. Let's get in a quick break. We'll pick it up on the other side of the break.